Three. Hello, hello, and welcome to Transparent, where we do interviews and not interviews. My name is LaKendra Ford, and I am so happy that you had a chance to join us because we have a very, very special guest, Miss Jessica Thomas-Frazier. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm happy to have you because you are indeed a person that people can be inspired by for what you stand for, who you are as a woman, and for your superhero powers. But we'll get more into that a little bit later, okay?
Okay.
But I just wanted to let everyone know just a little bit about you, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, okay. So, friends, this is Miss Jessica Frazier. She is the founder and CEO of Straight Street Life Center here in Georgia, and she is doing the work that we all know needs to be done. I want her to tell us a little bit about Straight Street because I believe what she's doing is phenomenal and very impactful. And it's people like her, ordinary, extraordinary heroes that we should celebrate. So, Miss Jessica Frazier, could you please let us know first where you're from?
Well, I'm from the great state of Texas,
All
born
right.
and raised. Yes, yes, country girl. And you want me to tell them something about Straight Street? Well,
Yes.
Straight Street is a nonprofit that I started many, many moons ago. And it was a vision that God gave me before I left Texas in 2005. And
Mm,
so took me to the scripture in Acts 9 and gave me the name, which was Straight Street.
mm,
And because there were other businesses named Straight Street, some churches named Straight Street, I added Life Center.
mm,
And Straight Street is, we're an awareness nonprofit. We do awareness, we do training, we train other organizations about domestic minor sex trafficking. I do a conflict resolution training. I do residential bullying
mm.
to other organizations. And our biggest venture yet is opening our Straight Street Life Center Safe Home in Douglas County, where we will be serving girls 13 to 17 years old that have been sex trafficked. And
Mm.
so that's just been the biggest part of this baby. Um, I'm just excited about that because that's been a part of the vision from the beginning,
Mhm.
but the hardest part of the vision.
Right, right. And what touches me so is because a lot of people speak about sex trafficking, but it's so seldom that we get to look at someone who has devoted their life to helping these young lady and is it men as well, or is this
There
young?
eventually will have a Straight Street Life Center for boys.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so eventually that's coming.
Right, right. But Georgia, as we a lot of people have heard, and we know for certain, is definitely a hub for sex trafficking,
Yes,
and it is one of those um, quiet atrocities that we see, but we don't even know that we're witnessing. You know,
that's
and
true.
it is so it's such a big thing that you've been called to do and so important. And I feel that it's people like you, ordinary, extraordinary heroes that make a difference in our communities and one day going to be an answer to a lot of these young ladies' prayers. So let's
Thank
give it
you.
up for Miss Jessica Frazier.
Thank you.
Yes, for not just talking about it, but being about that work. And
Woo.
I celebrate you. I
Thank
celebrate
you.
you. So, and then
Thank
for the
you.
Life Center, is it true that they'll be able to live there for a period of time?
Yes, it's a 12-month program. It's an intense therapeutic program because we are literally within those 12 months undoing undoing some serious mental manipulation, psychological manipulation that has been, worked on the girls during their time of exploitation. And then we may even during their therapy time with their time with their therapist, they may even visit those traumatic experiences that they had prior to being exploited. So it's very intense. 12-month program, but it's actually ongoing. It's just a lifetime of dealing and coping with that situation.
Right. So, in your experience with doing Straight Street, have you run across some young ladies that seem um, that the trauma had overcome them to the point where you felt like they would need more further help?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So what we're trying to do while they're in care is give them tools, so whenever things come up, um, they're able to get past those humps
Right.
and then build them up in such a way, even if they can't pull themselves out of that pit, they have enough knowledge and enough or gumption to want to live that they'll call somebody, that they'll reach out to somebody on their support. I've had girls call me, in midday, middle of the night. I'm just tired. I don't want to go on, and I'll talk them through, walk them through while I'm dialing, suicide hotline to get a team out to that wherever they are.
Right.
Or so yeah, it's definitely some girls that it's really hard for them to deal with everything that's happened. Because if you just knew their story, it literally looks like one brick. They were hit by one brick, 2 bricks, 3 bricks, 4, 5 bricks, 6 bricks, 7 bricks. I mean, just like a constant just pounding in their short lives. Because I'm talking about like a 14, 15-year-old.
Right. I can imagine, and I know you take on. I could tell just from knowing you, you have a mothering spirit. So I'm sure that they're going to get all the love that you have to give, and for your center, all the people that you have working with you. But for some of the people that are not aware, I know people hear about sex trafficking, and a lot of women and men have young teenage girls. Is there anything that you've picked up in your journey that you would have as a warning sign for their children might be vulnerable or susceptible to this type of lifestyle?
Well, it has no face. It has no gender. It has, no racial, economic, socioeconomic face.
Right.
Age alone makes them vulnerable. Age alone. And then you put on top of lack on top of the age, because children, somebody is supposed to be taking care of that child.
Right.
They're supposed to be supplied their needs, not seeking out their needs.
Right.
And so age, lack, unstableness, physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, all of that makes them vulnerable to being pulled into exploitation. And so, it really starts in the home. That's why I would like to educate parents, moving forward. Social media, even in my home, like I had 2 parents, my stepdaddy and my mama, but they worked. They worked, they came home, and they rested.
Right.
So if we had internet, if we had Facebook, all this stuff, then I would have been making money off the internet. I'm just saying.
Right, right, right. Let's be, yeah, because I look at these children today, they have so much access and they're fascinated by so many different things, rather it's music or just the influence of trying to keep up in this social environment that we have. You
That
know,
they were born into.
they were born into it. I thought you listen. We was listening to NWA and thought we was gangster.
Right,
But now,
right.
now they have so much exposure. Nothing's left to the imagination, and a good conversation from a stranger sometimes can be intriguing if you're trying to hide from something or run away from a certain thing that you're facing.
Yes, and it only takes a little bit of attention,
Mm,
a little bit of attention, a little acknowledging that lack or that need or that want that this child has, and so it doesn't take much to confuse a child with what love is. It doesn't take much to confuse a child with what nurturing looks like. It
right,
doesn't take much. And so, with that confusion, what it may look like to one child that's being loved on consistently in the home, and it's shown in different ways like physical touch. Their parents, their mom or dad, they're hugging them and they're kissing them and they're tucking them in at night, and they're immediately taking care of boo-boos, and
right,
they're feeding them when they're supposed to be fed, and giving them snacks in between meals.
right.
Well, that child knows all of that is going into that child as love. This is love. My mommy taking care of me. And, that child just expects. That's the faith of a child. That child is just expecting their meals to be there, expecting mama to kiss and hug and take care of them. But then you have the children over here that's lacking everything I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm,
Everything I just mentioned. They don't know when the next meal is coming. They're not being touched physically, which is very important.
mm-hmm,
It's important for the physical and psychological development of children
mm-hmm.
to have that touch, and to be um, affirmed, or you know about being loved, and I'm here, I'm present, I'm protecting you, I'm taking care of you. The child over here has none of that, and so it takes this one person, whether it's male or female. It
Mm-hmm.
could be another child,
Mm-hmm.
a family member, a preacher, a teacher. But if they start listening to that child and they feed them a bologna sandwich with no mayo,
Mm-hmm.
they'll start interpreting that as love.
Right.
This person is taking care of me. This
Right.
person cares about me.
And
I'm
I
sorry, girl. I'll just get to talking and
no, 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 no. I'm there with you. And and even to support that, even if a child grows up with nurturing around them, it's always a longing as a human being for someone else to affirm who we are. I think
yeah.
everyone remembers their little puppy crush or whoever, anybody that gave them that special attention that they sought after can be an influence to them. And let's just be real, manipulators are out here in the world, and they have up their tactics. You know,
Yes.
they know exactly how to get straight to the mental of whoever that they're going after, or they're trying to pick up. There are also cases, I know you've seen that some people were kidnapped. I had another sister on a transparent that was actually kidnapped.
Mm.
So There's so much going on, and I think the work that you're doing of working with these young sisters and reprogramming how they receive love is, I think, is going to go so far, so
Yeah.
far. So I celebrate that with you. But Jessica, now you know what you done came on transparent, right?
Yes.
Okay, now we do interviews.
Amen.
Okay, so I know there has to be something that motivated you to go in this direction. Can you tell us a little bit of your exposure and how relevant this was to you in your life?
Wow. Yes. So, um, initial trauma was at 5, where I was molested from 5 to 9 by one uncle. And um, when I was 14, I met my exploiter. He was a preacher, about 25 years old. And by 15, we were having sex. By the time I was 15, we were having sex. But how he did it was so subtle. That's why I know, you know.
They're cunning. Yeah.
Yes. It was so subtle because he pulled up to our house acting like he was lost.
Mm-hmm.
It was two young preachers. And so the first thing he said to me is your dad home? And it was my cousin and I, we were outside, and I just blurted out with, no, he doesn't live here, but my mama's in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is before my mom married my stepdad. And he came in. I went in and told my mama that the preacher was lost. They came in and became fast family friends. I mean, like, just charismatic and just talkative, and they know how to talk to people. They know
Right.
what to say. I mean, he started taking my two younger brothers to baseball games, to McDonald's, which was really huge back then. You know, you go to McDonald's, you
You in there.
you went out to dinner for the night. You know,
You rich. McDonald's. Big
hmm So he used to take my brothers out. So he did all of this prior to ever taking me out alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he would take me out, we would go to like movies and out to dinner and stuff like that before he started taking me back to his apartment.
Mm.
And so did not know that I was being exploited. I thought I was making a choice. I thought um, that this was a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He eventually asked me, do you have any friends?
Mm.
And, that might want to come with us. Just went all over my head. Just went straight over my head.
Right, right.
And I was probably about 16 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I called a couple of friends. One couldn't come. One ended up coming. But yeah, I don't think that's what he had in mind. The friend that ended up coming with us,
Mm-hmm.
because he did not bother her. He didn't touch her.
Right.
Fast forward to 2005, I came to Georgia. God told me to come to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up getting a job working with this population. Well, after I was listening to the girls' stories, they'd have to tell their life stories when they came in. And just the more I listened to each one of the girls' stories, life story, it's just wheels just started turning. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, God, I was exploited.
Right, right,
Like,
right, right. And you know, let's be real. A lot of people have very, very similar experiences.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't know if it's just me, but a lot of people who have been pre-exposed to sexuality, um, exploited, molested, grow up trying to cover up all these wounds. And sometimes they look like scrapes, but they're really wounds.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and even those who don't claim that, oh, I wasn't raped, I wasn't molested, but just that pre-exposure shifted the way they thought of relationships or sexuality and emotional attachment. And
yeah,
a lot of times, it comes from those people who we trust the most, right?
yeah, yeah,
Who would have ever thought a preacher would seduce you with his spirituality knowing you were a child?
exactly,
Could you really
exactly.
have been making an informed decision versus the mentality of a 25-year-old?
And see, and that's why the federal government in 2000, 22 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
in 2000, made it a federal crime to exploit minors. Because prior to 2000,
Mm-hmm.
it was a misdemeanor to prostitute a child, to exploit a child. A misdemeanor, a slap on the wrist. So the child or the woman actually got into more trouble than the person that was exploiting them.
Right. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's why they did that. It's and it says basically anybody under 18, it doesn't have to be proven that they were forced or there was coercion or there was fraud involved. It doesn't have to be proven. Because if they was under 18, they did not have the cognitive mind to make those decisions. It was manipulation.
Right.
It was the other person using their authority, their position,
Mm-hmm.
their resources to manipulate this child into having sex in exchange for
Right, right, right. Whew.
too much.
No, I'm taking it. You know that this comes very close to my heart. That's the reason why we met in
Yeah,
the first place. We
your
have a lot.
book.
Yeah, my book is about sex trafficking.
Yes.
Um, I tell you, Jessica, when I was writing the book, I remember it being a point where I said, and my eyes are getting a little bit warm because I remember there being a point where I said, "Why are you going in this direction? Why? It's so dark. Why?" And
Hmm.
I just remember at some point I felt like I only can write it when it was something speaking through me. And how life happens, it has been since I've been in Georgia that I've met more survivors than I ever could have imagined.
Ain't that
This
something?
this was just fiction in my mind, but at least 3 survivors have read my book and said I nailed it dead on. So I know that God sometimes pushes you spiritually into something, and that made me go and research and learn and be intrigued and go out and sort people like you to have conversations with. So this is something that we definitely need to have an open and honest conversation about in our communities, because
Yes.
You know, here in Georgia, every time you go to the gas station, you seeing pictures of young ladies that are missing, or families thinking that they ran away when that's not always the case.
Right. Right.
And then sometimes the law enforcement be like, well, hey, it's not 24 hours, 48 hours, can't do nothing about that, or da 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 da, or actually look at the parents as if they were the villains all the time.
I've seen all of that you just said.
So it's like, no, we have to be vigilant over our young, because
Yes.
the ones that's growing up now, they think they know everything, you know? And it's
Yeah.
some, back in the days, you had to, I don't care if this was not your family member, if they were 5 years older than you, they were your elder, you know? But
Yeah.
when we have to get to the point of conversation. That way, when they're getting all this exposure, they also understand that this is what happens as well.
Risk.
This is why we're concerned. This is why we may nurture you a little bit more,
Yes.
because it's dangerous out here.
Yes.
And some people repair from trauma and others don't.
Yeah.
So I tell you, Jessica, I truly, from my heart of all hearts, know that God has ordained you to do this as your ministry. And I hope somebody's watching is inspired and thinking about what is it that God is calling them to do. Because at some point we have to stop talking about it, and somebody has to push the effort to make the change.
Ooh. Yes. Yes. Well, I could definitely encourage, that person that's listening, that, if you have that thought to do something that is going to make a difference in the lives of others, 9 times out of 10, you did not give yourself that idea. It was a download from Holy Spirit. It wasn't a God idea. And he gave it to you because he trusts you with it. And so what you do with it is, don't hold it with a tight fist. You write down the vision, make it plain. You write down the vision and you talk about it to people you trust.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, that's all I had for years.
Yes, sis, that is a great point, to write down the vision and make it plain. Make it
Yeah.
That way we know that we can all do our part, no matter what it is. It may not be sex trafficking for some. It can be any cause, but it takes people who have the courage like yourself that makes so much of a difference in this world. So I don't know if everybody else gets excited when they meet people like Jessica Frazier, but I know I'm like, this is humanity at its best. So I'm so
Girl.
excited for the work. I know that you have a new center. I watch on social media it coming together, and knowing how much of a blessing that will be for these young women to come through, and it's just fantastic. So, is there anything that you would like to say to anyone who has, if someone's listening who has survived um, sexual exploitation?
Oh, wow. It's funny that you would ask that particular question, because you have no idea what was just turning in my head as you were just speaking, um, about people making a difference. And I'm like, hard things or bad things happen to good people. But just think about it. None of that stuff killed me.
Mm.
I am here today, resilient, and so is the next person.
Right.
The girl or the boy that survived an attack, whether it was an attack on their physical body or their mind, you survived. And so take that thing that you survived, that thing that might have meant to take you out but didn't or couldn't, You take that thing and you make it your armor, you make it your fight, you make it your why. Because I can guarantee that there is somebody else that is coming behind you in the same footsteps. But you share your story of how you overcome, how you made it through. And even if you're still dealing with some stuff, share that too. Because we got to stop acting like we're still not affected by something that happened to us 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
So, yes, share your story. You are resilient.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll be supporting you with our prayers and our hopes for your future and your healing, because I know it is possible and I know God can work things out in a mighty, mighty way. But
Yeah.
Jessica, you are phenomenal. Thank you so much. I can't
Thank
thank you
you.
enough. I thank God for using you in this type of ministry. And also, out if you don't mind, can you let us know where we can find you?
Yes, like all of our social media handles are SS Life Center.
Mm-hmm.
That's at Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, SS Life Center, and the website as well.
Awesome, awesome. So you've heard it here, Miss Jessica Thomas-Frazier. You can find her. I'll have the links in the bio for you all if you want to learn a little bit more about the mission she's on. And if you want to find ways to support, that will be tremendous. We thank you all for listening, because it's these type of interviews that may just touch one person's life, but that would mean the world. And it makes all of this worth doing. Thank you, sis, for joining us, and you have a
Thank
wonderful.
you for having me.
I thank you so much. And this relationship we have will go on, because I am going to be right in your tracks, seeing what it is that I can do and how I can.
Amen.
All right, I appreciate you. Thank you all for joining us. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye bye.